I apologize for any ruffled feathers I caused over that, but
I'm sure they want any.
trust me, I'm not feeling bad about that.
All right. So we'll go ahead and just go through the minutes here. The first set of selectmen's minutes for approval would be the March 20th, our last regular session meeting. I don't know if you care to make a motion to approve those minutes.
Well, I guess.
Second.
Okay. Any additions, deletions, edits? No? None. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. And that also includes an addendum. Addendum. This is the first time these guys have seen this, right?
Yes, I think I read this
Okay.
by you.
That was what we did after we went into make sure that's to your liking. Okay, so we've got three non-public meetings. The first one I'll entertain a motion to seal, or this is just an FYI, they're already sealed.
They're already sealed.
Initial that, that is under the section, the veterans credits, and the third one. Thank you. And then we've got finally the highway and fire budget work session.
Now, this one, the reason it was held for a while, there was some confusion or mix-up, I guess. I don't know if, Hank, I don't know if you got that sorted out yet, but some of the recording was messed up. So I had actually held that one because we were going to complete it, but Martha said, no, go ahead, submit those, and then we'll get the other part later. It's missing the police and the Warner,
Okay.
So this is just the highway.
just the highway and the.
And this is from January 15th.
Yeah.
So, would anyone care to make a motion to approve the highway fire budget work session meeting minutes from January 15th?
All of that.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Sure. I can maintain it.
I know. That, huh? Okay, and then we've got the action items from our last meeting, is agenda item 3. Bill had nothing on his list. John, you're going to talk to Peter, Frank, and Ross about health insurance coverage?
I did talk to Frank today,
Uh-huh.
and kind of felt that well, kind of what we thought all along is that it was, initially agreed to be 100%, and, we're not bound by any ways or means of keeping it 100%, but do we want to keep good faith and honor what was originally negotiated back in, I believe it was 03, those contracts.
Right.
We know that, Carl, you're going to be retiring in how many years?
Well, as I say, the plan.
The plan.
The plan is December, but we know how plans go.
Yeah.
But that's ideally what, I would So,
being so in the near future, it might warrant us to certainly honor Carl's 100% plan until retirement. That was one thought anyways, just kicking that out there. And, dealing with Sean's another way or not, obviously those are options. But Frank was, pretty much in agreement with what we thought earlier, is that it can be changed if we want to, but, if you want to honor the agreement that we had back when we initially hired him.
Okay. Anything to add to that?
No, I'm pondering this as far as Carl goes in 1 year, but I guess I would like to put a reopening of the question and not say it's forever. In other words, if we want to honor the other one, let's put some kind of ceiling on it, either in cost or something.
And we certainly have time to think about that because we're obviously in a
Right.
position now that the town meeting's all done. so.
Right, so some kind of ceiling either on time or ceiling on cost or something that would say as an example, if the healthcare cost goes to X, then that would not be included in the something. I don't know, forever is too long.
Okay. Well, you had gone to an insurance workshop and made a full and thorough report here. And I know, but you've recently gone to one that you weren't able to make.
I've got the information she brought.
Maybe you guys can get together and get Bill caught up to speed on the
Yeah, I did want
workshop.
to touch base with you.
And maybe this can kind of surface again when there's some sort of a recommendation,
I'll
or
take
if
that.
there is a recommendation,
Okay.
come at that point, so. No action items for Bob. Julie, find out about the tulip insurance, and the town, and you've got some, this is
I
about
do, and
gazebo
it's-
rental.
We actually have it listed down below, so we can cover it there.
Okay, and, we're gonna talk to Goody about getting weekly reports. for
And
the selectmen.
I did, and he submitted it.
Here's the report that he submitted for last week. He has not got the one in this week because it's
Okay.
Thursday and he's probably running around. So
Yep.
This is a week
So
before.
it's
We'll
an
treat it
FYI.
however you want to treat it. You can either put it in the records or
Well,
whatever you want to do with it.
okay. I'll be happy to read that afterwards and get up to speed. I think that's the purpose of it, so we're up to speed on what his challenges are and how he's doing with stuff, so. Excellent. Julie Hoyt, tax refund request, write letter explaining decision.
That was sent, yeah.
Post board positions, e-news, website.
That we've got on hold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, that's it.
The only thing I had added was one you and I talked about, Maureen and Peter's property.
Oh, that, yeah, Julie has emailed back and forth with
Maureen,
Maureen.
she doesn't need any assistance from the town. She's going to try and find somebody who can step in.
Possible family member that could take over for that, so.
Okay, so that's all for,
Off our table.
okay, good. Excellent. That's the action item list. And so now we're at the transfer station proposal. John had dropped off a sketch
I've seen.
that we all had given to us at the last meeting, and I know it actually got run through Burr, and he's here, and we thought we'd kind of good time to entertain a discussion about it and see what we're all feeling are good, solid next steps forward for that, so it's gonna come up, and sure.
So, you know, Bob, John put that plan together. That was pretty impressive. You take the initiative to put a plan together like that. His plan, I think, pretty much focused on working within the confines of the existing building and sort of improving one portion of their operation. I think it's like, you have to take a look at it. That's a pretty clever plan, once you go out and do it. My question was, did you want to consider traffic flow or circuit, anything other than that operations portion of it in the plan as well? You want to try to redirect cars, maybe shift things around differently so that we can, improve sort of traffic flow, people flow. So bit of a zoo there sometimes, that's for sure, cars can go wherever and park wherever and.
That was kind of the big plan.
I wasn't
when we
sure.
looked at it.
I wasn't sure if you were looking at a bigger plan or if you were just looking at more of these.
Low cost, obviously. That's obviously a big thing, but, the major issue with me was the traffic flow. And, making people, kind of have a direction in and out type thing. And how accessible or how usable that back road is, exit out by the metals. I know that's in pretty tough shape, obviously, in the springtime, but, what would have to make that up to, capacity to be able to hold cars, properly or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think that in particular would be a challenge, other than you may want to pave it, it would be a bit of a cost for paving or something along those lines.
Right. But that was, my concern was the traffic flow up there.
I mean, you have people backing into the dumpsters
Right.
and then obviously it's a little bit of a free-for-all pulling out of there
It's
or
not efficient
whatever.
with the volume that it gets now.
Right. I mean, I don't know if it makes sense to take a little bit of time and, have some sort of base plan of the site and then, for me as an engineer, I need to like plan in front of me and then lay it out, see turning movements and then figure out traffic, patterns and, lay it out so that they're putting things to kind of guide the cars where you want them to go and keep them away from where you don't want them to go.
Well,
Something
Gene Chen asked me to engage you to do this type of project.
Right.
Again, I don't know how extensive we want to get down to, drawings and things like that, but certainly something that makes it, relatively inexpensive to do.
Right. I mean, I guess what I would suggest is put together some sort of conceptual plan, or maybe there'd be a few conceptual plans of different levels of the bare bones, and do something a little bit more elaborate, and then people can kick those around, see what they're thinking. You need more plans after that to, put details to it or something like that, construction details, that's fine too. I could probably, I could give you an estimate or something like that, what it would cost to get the plan and do the few options, give you a budget.
Yeah, I like the idea of some options, and I think that, my thinking was, because this is on our slate to really see what we can come up with this year to make things run a little smoother up there. I know John had done a car count one day, and just counted 800 cars or some ungodly number. It's just not set up to get that volume to use. So, and I know you do a lot of engineering work for the town, but I wasn't sure if this was also in your domain of expertise to deal with traffic flow issues and stuff. But if it is, I think it makes sense for you to spend some time looking at it up there and give us some recommendations on how it can be run more efficiently. I mean, for the last year, we've gotten input from people about different transfer stations in different towns that are set up with one-way traffic flows and that they're very efficient, and so we know it can be done. And that transfer station was set up in a different day with a different workload and everything else. So I think that it would, I like the idea of a number of different options to look at. Everything from the low cost to the pie in the sky and maybe something in the middle. And I think that it probably makes sense once we get something like that. I don't know how you guys feel to take a look at it and then meet with the Bartlett Selectmen and John and have a discussion around what we've got.
Sure.
And it would, I think it'd be critical for you to be at that meeting too.
Sure.
So,
I work with Bartlett as well.
yeah.
I think John told me that originally when that transfer station was constructed or partially constructed, that the layout was actually going to be quite different, and then at the last minute they sort of mixed things up a little bit. So I don't think it maybe got off to exactly the start.
No.
Well, plans start there. So
Right. So
So
what's
we
the,
can work within the got there.
What's the bill on this one, 60/40 or 75/25 for him? I don't know what the split is, we'll figure that out.
Between you and Bart?
Huh?
Between you and Bart?
Yeah, for your service. But that would be great, if you could, how much time do you think you'd like to spend on this project before you've got something to bring to the boards?
I guess I'll have to first just see what I can get in the way of a base, see if I can, come up with some sort of base map where I don't have to do much or anything out there. That would be I guess the first thing, once they get that into the plan, but, couple months, something like that.
Well, you just want to be in touch with our town offices and let us know if we've got something concrete to look at, and then we'll schedule it in.
All right, sounds good.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bert. Any public comments this afternoon? B?
Did we get the grader back yet?
The grader is back. Yeah,
What was the cost?
we still don't have a cost on that. I know Jay shared an email that he just got yesterday from Milton Caterpillar, which is where we purchased the grader. And he gave me a copy of it, even though it wasn't on the agenda. And Milton Cat is all over southern and northern New England. I thought this was a Caterpillar dealership in Milton.
No.
It's not. So, at any rate, there was a broken rod in the motor, is what was wrong with the grader. And it's fixed and it's back up and it's running great. Currently working with Caterpillar on helping out with the engine repair. As I've told you in the past, you'll have some participation in this along with ourselves as a dealer and Caterpillar. So they're basically in conversations right now with Caterpillar and Milton Cat to figure out just what the bill is and how that's going to be divvied out. And that's as much as we know right now. There's no bill, there's no amount on here for services. So that's what's...
Was there any warranty?
No, there was not any warranty on it. It was a 2008, even though it only had 1,200 hours on it. There was no warranty on it, being 6 years old. But they've given him both these assurances in writing and verbally as well, that there's going to be some sort of contribution from both Milton Cat and Caterpillar. So when we know more, we'll share it. Any other comments? Very good. We'll move to police report. Carl.
Okay. We have done a lot of assisting. We assisted the Department of Transportation, State Highway. The first rest stop, there's a car that they wanted towed due to plowing reasons. Yeah, with the notch. Yeah, so we towed that per their request. Went to a 911 hang-up at a hotel, which unfounded. A lot of times people down line get outside line. There's a country code if you're whether it's France or whatever. So the down line down in 11. The country code that's 911 as well. I've talked with the hotels before the past about changing, see if we can change to 8 to get an outside line. Okay, we assisted the Paul Jackson ambulance with a injured skier up in Black. Assisted the town highway department. They complained of several vehicles parked on the road by News Farm with the white line. I guess there was a wedding going on up there. Assisted the State Department of Transportation, which kind of some kind of issues down by the Harbor House in 16 cars. Right on, we're so close to the white line on the opposite side that they're afraid that the plows are just going to clip them.
And definitely in the right of way.
Yeah, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 false motor alarms. We had a gentleman turn in a suitcase they found on the road, and we were able to get that back to the owner. We assisted the Barnum Jackson ambulance with a One female that had spent the night on the floor. And did event verification, assisted a motorist that was locked out of her car. And that's a rare thing these days because of the locks they have. And we don't have the equipment anymore like we did back in the 90s with the switch. Motor vehicle accident around 16, just north of the village. A gentleman was traveling south. He actually fell asleep, hit a snowbank by one of the falls, bounced off, drove down, fell asleep again, hit the snowbank, and then we assisted Conway Police Department with the subpoena service, and the ambulance with a 70-year-old gentleman with chest pains.
Any questions for Carl? Okay, thanks, Carl. Very good. George?
Well, follow-up question on the transfer station.
Sure.
Is there going to be any relocation of the activities there, or is this just a roadway?
Well, I think that if Ber's going to be presenting 3 different options, I would imagine that at least one or all of them are probably going to identify relocation options. We don't know that yet. Maybe we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, and so there's going to be a discussion about what we can afford or what we want to spend on it moving forward. But yeah, I would imagine that needs to be part of it. But I'm just guessing, yeah.
Well, I'm sure I'm sure at least one or two of the options will
Yeah.
have it.
Right, okay. Very good. Building matters, driveway permit.
We added a few more building permits in there that were not listed on
Oh,
the
you do?
agenda yet.
Okay. So 7A is Darrell Brown's driveway permit, and this was signed off by Jay
Yep.
in January.
And we also have the actual building permit for Darrell Brown as well. It's been signed off by Goody.
Oh, okay, great, all right. So this is just for one signature.
Yep.
Good. And Town of Jackson building permit. Now that we have the signed driveway permit, and this is Mr. Brown's building permit. And this is all set, does this need any signature?
No, this is just an FYI for the
Russo's
selection.
doing the site work and GC up there. Any questions on the Brown permit? Okay, very good. And what's the next one here? We've got, this is the rooftop panels. Was this for this building permit?
It should say the name right on the top. Right.
Oh, Dick Back.
Different name for that, yeah.
Okay, so he's gonna be installing some solar rooftop panels. Very good. No action there, right?
Right.
And then this one's for the Mallon Corporation, just relocating a partition in one of their buildings.
Yeah, I believe the restaurant.
The bar and grill, yeah, it's a partition in the bar.
Got it. All right, and that's also been something Judy's been dealing with, right?
Yes.
Very good. Another one that's not on here is Daniel Connolly, remodeling his interior with sheetrock, flooring downstairs, ceiling sheetrock, upgrading plumbing and electric. And this is over map R12, lot 162. So it sounds like Vinny's been busy.
Yes.
Yeah, so,
Next up then would be 7B, building inspector proposal then hiring update. Bill, you want to talk about the
Yes.
Vermont group that came and presented us?
I have an extra proposal, if anybody wants it, that's their proposal, but we did spend some more time when we came back, went through it. I think what you'll find is, I think I gave her that cost back, maybe.
It should be on the very last page, I think. Yeah, I think I gave it back to you. Yeah, I think, Bob, I think it's the last page in your packet,
I think that's,
And then when you just.
but the very last
That's-
page, there's an
Oh, it's
email
in here.
attached,
With the cost breakdown?
I think. Is that what you're looking for?
no, that's what they do in other communities.
So,
There is a cost breakdown.
I have
There
one.
was one I saw in email.
Yeah, it should be right there. It's attached, Joe.
Thank you, Tom.
What are you looking for?
Well, this is,
It's a minute of work.
this is fees collected, but I think what, what we're always looking at is what's the hourly rate, how they're gonna do it. And they're still, still looking at that $70 an hour and/or, they came up with a $1,325 for 2 days, or a daily rate of $817 a day. Pardon? Well, I know that the only thing I would say, I'm not, the only thing I would say, I think that the town of Jackson, the citizens went a long way to want a building inspector. I mean, the town was involved, this was not a, 10-minute program. And although I think we have to have a real inspector, somebody that has all the certifications, can go out and do the job, can not fumble around on the job and say, well, I'll go look this up, or I'll do this, or I'll do that. I think you need somebody that has the confidence to say, here's what the regulations are, here's what the rules are, and you need to, whatever you need to do. So I'm not saying this is the way to do it. These people meet all those qualifications. They meet every qualification. And I don't think we have anybody else, as far as I know. So the question, I guess, came up, I think, Bob, you put it out to discuss whether to move forward somehow, is repost it, make a decision on the candidates we have, which are 2, I think, right? And or just, there was a third option. Can't remember.
Well, we could use MRI.
Oh, that's what it was, use MRI.
We usually, yeah.
And these people, obviously, he's called me, they want the business, to get into it. And I guess the question, I don't know, Goody made a suggestion, and I don't feel confident in saying much about this because I don't know, is he said if you advertised it, that you were looking for a part-time person that has all these credentials, and they would be covered under the town insurance, which means they don't have to go out and pay thousands and thousands of dollars for insurance, that you might be able to find someone willing to drive a reasonable distance that says, as long as I don't have to buy insurance for that job, I'll come up and do it. But I'm not coming up for 1 or 2 or 3 days a week and then buy a whole separate insurance policy for this. So that was a discussion with Goody, and I guess it's almost like you need to talk to a lawyer about this because I'm not sure how that works. But I think the only thing I feel confident in about it is you need somebody fully qualified. that is competent, knows what they're doing, and can give confidence to the community they know what they're doing.
Now, was there a cost increase they proposed to? I think I saw that went up from what, 0.25% to
They did, and I think that's that sheet I was looking at, excuse me.
4,500% or something like that.
They're looking at cost, permit costs, and he did say that our permit costs, if you look at permit costs, that, and based on other communities and what happens, our permit cost, I think, is running like $1.47 a thousand or something, and he said you'd be better off around $2.50 to $3 a thousand for permit costs. That will help you fund all the inspections, and then he listed some inspection numbers in here. It's okay. I mean, I need to read it. The problem is you don't have encompassing data to determine much from it. But I think it would be reasonable to assume your fee would have to go up.
Yeah.
In other words, and when you say a lot, you say, well, that's 100%. Well, it's from $1.50 to $3. Yeah, that's 100%, or 50. It's 100%. But if you're going to get a reasonable inspection, then, and you're going to cover it with the fees, then I would say, and one of the things that he sent down, the Vermont sent down was, some of what other towns do, and we're just very low. Other towns are, they charge more for their inspection fees.
And obviously, this is the logic behind the IS construction consultant's bid, is that they're saying that they assume, based on what they know about the Jackson building permit
Right.
services, that they would estimate we would collect around $50,000 in inspection fees in 2014, and that their total cost, based on the single day rate, that would probably need 12 visits throughout the year, twice a month, with a couple float days, and then a double day visit once.
Seasonal adjustments.
Yeah, that they would be charging us $46,215. So by their numbers, they're saying that
It's a wash.
It's a wash.
It's
supposed to be a
wash
wash.
in their mind.
$46,000.
Well, you're talking about, I mean, I'm not an expert in this either, I guess, but the last thing you want is somebody that really doesn't know what they're doing. I mean,
I realize they have to be certified,
Yeah.
but that is a little bit.
Well, you get a couple things then, and I'm not trying to sell you on this. Well, my point is that you have a depth with these people. You don't have just one person.
Right.
If we have a problem, then you can go and they can send another person in depth because they're a company. So there are reasons why it's okay, and if you increase your fees, you're still not costing town Jackson. Yes, sir.
No, I was just going to say, to help you sort of summarize where we were, the two candidates we had were basically either end of the extreme. One is very eager and has a lot of energy to try to make it happen, but has virtually no qualifications to do it. The second one is someone, these people, and I don't mean to be demeaning or anything, somebody in our committee described them as going bird hunting with a 30-06. They're incredibly qualified. And I think what Bill's trying to say, and what our committee was trying to say, is what we're really looking for is someone in between, someone who's qualified. And one of my main approaches with the Vermont people was, this is a small town. We want to have our building inspection services within our control. But I'm not sure that we could afford you. I was pretty direct with them about it, because I thought they were going to be very expensive, looking at their fee schedule. When they came back with this letter, I'm not sure how much that sunk in as far as their fee schedule, because it does seem like a lot of money for what you're doing.
Will you define as best you can what you mean by qualifications?
Well, you've got there's a professional, what is it, ISO, or, there's BOCA, which used to be one of the qualifications, and there's another one after called, I think it's not IFO or ISO.
IBC?
IBC.
The IBC certification is what you mean when you say qualifications.
That's what I mean, that's what I mean. And those qualifications can be gotten by, you can take courses and get those accreditations fairly easily.
So if someone had come and applied for the job and said, I'm IBC certified, you would consider that person qualified?
Pretty, and given it, and with a requisite amount of background in the profession, yes.
Go ahead.
I mean, if you looked at their certifications and
This group.
the last building inspector certifications, you'll see that there's probably close to 10 certifications they have for all different elements, whether it's mechanical, whether it's electrical. I know the last building inspector had a concrete testing inspection certification, you know, American American Concrete Institute testing there, so.
You know,
There's a lot of guys that have, you know, they have experience. I think what I want to say was previous building inspector, I think, had the qualifications, certainly the qualifications that EIS had. It obviously didn't have the depth as one person, the last one, this one, they got a couple different people.
Okay.
well, we could always post it again and say, you know, try to, Goody, I mean, he obviously knows more about it than I do, but Goody said if you post it in the paper and you ask for someone a part-time of which you will pay their insurance through the town, so they would have to be, I don't know, technically employed part-time, I guess, to get the town insurance. So when they come to work, they'd be covered under the town insurance, and, you know, whatever the rate is, and go from there.
Okay.
Let me throw out my professional liability insurance, which covers errors and omissions. So if I tell somebody to build a culvert this big and it's not big enough and it blows their house out, that's, you know, my insurance policy covers that. That's a particular type of insurance. And then I have general liability as well. It's less than $5,000 per year. So if you cover insurance, you're saving, I wouldn't think more than $5,000. $50,000 budget, that's probably not a huge number. Just give me an idea and a sense of it.
And obviously this construction consultant firm and any similar type firm is going to have their own insurance policies that cover that. All right, well, I did have an email exchange with Goody today because I just wanted to know where he was with this, and he said he was happy to continue as the interim building inspector for now. So, and it was pointed out at the last meeting that we had only made a motion to have him continue on, to have him function as the building inspector through the 5 permits, which was what at the time we thought were the only ones outstanding. We were wrong about that. There was a lot more work outstanding, and he's been doing that. And he said he's willing to continue on for a good 6-month period. So this is really the first meeting where we've had an opportunity to talk about the applicants, the interviews, because the Vermont group, due to weather concerns, and then the fact that they wanted to come back and schedule a meeting that was supposed to take place either, yesterday or today, kind of finalize that. We hadn't really had it on the agenda to talk about up until this point. So I think we should give strong consideration to at least making a motion to have Robert Gaudreau can continue on as the interim building inspector, which he's indicated he's more than willing to do.
So moved.
Second?
Any more thoughts on
We don't burn them out.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
right.
worried about.
it? I think, yeah, and he really was back with a fairly, no problem, Bob, I'm still interested in helping out. So, that was good. there's no more discussion, all those in favor?
Only thing,
Oh, go ahead.
I will pursue this thing with them to see where to go, but anyway, that's fine. That's,
Okay.
no discussion. I'm
All right. All those in favor?
fine.
Opposed? All right, well, at least we've got that motion in and he's settled in and continuing now officially.
Would you then consider reposting the application? Try to, to look into the problem one more time, see if you can find someone else.
I think it'd be a good idea.
I think we could do that. I think that we've got that other applicant to discuss. And I'm really not sure how you two feel about discussing the other applicant in a public meeting.
Well, my preference would be not in a public meeting.
Okay, so let's make a point of having that discussion, and that'll inform whether or not what next steps we want to take.
Okay, that's good. I like that.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Appreciate being here, and Burr, helping to add to the discussion. New business. Agenda item 8.
One more thing before you want, did you want to submit this letter from Goody for the record?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and submit that as a report? And you think we should read it since none of us have, or you just?
I've read it, it's just
Okay.
detailed. what it is.
Yeah, so yes.
No, that's good then, yeah. And then we have to also sign off as Karen Burton being elected the town clerk tax collector, which also requires us to have this letter here signed off that approves her appointment as a municipal agent and authorizes her to process state work on town time. So, I guess this is typically standard with any tax clerk, town clerk tax collector.
Well, she had the previous letter for Jeanette, so I think it's standard just based on that.
Yeah, okay. So would either one of you like to entertain a motion to sign off on Karen Burton approving her appointment as a municipal agent, authorizing her to process state work on town time? So,
Second.
any discussion? All those in favor? Okay. Lefty. Go left to right. Sorry about that. It's just like, how did I get stuck with a left-handed person next to me?
It's just it's an exact duplicate of the letter that was written for Jeanette for this, and they helped us.
Next up, we've got a liquor license request from the Wentworth, another fairly standard document here, authorizing us to give permission to the Wentworth to serve alcohol outside of their licensed area to accommodate an outdoor wedding, to accommodate outdoor wedding receptions between May 1st and November 30th. Either one of you care to make a motion authorizing us to sign off on that request?
So,
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. And as an FYI, tax bill was mailed. Very good. I've also got, and this would be, I guess, under new business is the file that's in. It's a quick rundown from Jay on his Selectmen's report. Road bans are now in place on town and state roads. Dundee Road is now closed for spring mud season. Routine truck and equipment maintenance is being done. Frost heaves are extremely severe this week, and he expects mud season to last much longer than normal. Probably makes sense. Reasonable expectation given what's out there. Due to the severe frost heaves, he's gonna do the survey of the roads in the spring to see if we need to change any of the road repair plans for the summer. I know he's feeling like that we may need to reprioritize our paving schedule and road repair schedule. And he's looking for the month of May to kind of firm up those ideas. Process of making some final decisions with the new truck purchase. And he did kind of discuss some of his options with me. He's got price quotes on trucks, and he's got price quotes on the body, and he's talked to a number of different people in town. He's talked to Egan, and he's talked to Buddy Courier, and he's talked to a couple of other people. And just for your information, he did post the international that we're swapping out, and he's asking for a minimum bid of $25,000. As of yesterday afternoon, he had 14 people inquire about it. He's had a couple come and look at it, and the bids are going to be due on the 24th of April, so he's pretty confident that there'll be some bids. And all along, he was just targeting getting $25,000 for that, so he's been real pleased with the activity around that posting. So that's that. And he's got high expectations for the quick sale at a good price. And he's got 142 inches of snow recorded that he's plowed this winter, along with the 2 major ice storms. And yes, it's been a long winter, and I was in total agreement with him about that. Yet we're pulling out of it between the sidewalks and the shoveling and the roads and everything. They've done a banner job this year. I was really pleased with what they did. So
Absolutely.
so pleased that he was able to put together a report even though he couldn't be here. Old business. Item 9, we've got the gazebo rental insurance, the tulip coverage.
I did check as to whether or not the town could be the agent for the insurance, and we cannot. But the tulip insurance, with every application that we send out for the gazebo rental, they have a phone number, website, you can pay online, and it should be, if it changes, depending on the level of insurance, whether there's going to be alcohol or not, and things like that, but a very basic is about $75 a day.
$75 for around 100 people without alcohol. And we had a brief discussion about how to make this as clean and simple as possible. We've been erring by not having events insured there because we're charging a fee. And so one of the stipulations for having events there at the gazebo would be that the people take the steps to get the insurance. Then they can basically do it over the phone with a credit card or online with a credit card, produce what we need for us, and so it can be a very simple process, just as simple as the application process currently is. So I think that moving forward, that's probably going to have to be a policy in place if we want to protect ourselves from any undue risk by not having things insured there.
Be some communication between who's supposed to be there and who's not supposed to be there, so maybe it might be something for a quick wedding.
Right.
Didn't get any okays or permission.
Right. I wonder if that's ever been an issue. I think it's been an issue, it might have been.
We didn't used to charge, did we, Dee? A long time ago. It's just
They charge 25.
25?
Yeah. And that's what we currently charge, so was talking about the gazebo rental insurance issue. It's roughly be $75 and it has to be done by the applicant. That covers people up to an event of 100 people without alcohol present. And so, I think we probably would want to have that come across in the form of a motion here, if that's something we want, or if we're just gonna include it in the policy. What do you guys think?
Since I'm the junior guy, I'll take
I think you just include it with the form to rent the gazebo itself. I mean, that would be probably the easiest way to do it, so you have to have a rider for insurance.
Okay.
And we put everything on the form they need to get that done, short order. Right, Julie?
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Very good. Tulip, gazebo, done. Next up, board appointments review, and again, we've got planning board 2 full member positions, 2 alternate positions. Conservation Commission, 3 members. Library trustees, 2 alternates. Zoning board, 2 members, 1 alternate. And we are looking to post this. I don't know if you guys have had enough time to think about that whole public service informational night we talked about last week, and how you feel about it. I'm happy to be here. At the same time, I don't want to stall this process out, but I think that it might be a good way to reach out, get people thinking about doing some public service. We had an informational night here from 5 to 7 one night next week, and I'm more than willing to be here Wednesday or Thursday, but Thursday we've got the planning board function, so it might work best to do it on Wednesday. You guys still feel okay about that?
I'll be here if you want me to be
Great,
here.
great.
You
As long as we don't discuss town business, that'd be great. Yeah, I think that I'd like to kind of reach out. I know that Sarah Duffy had inquired about where we were with this appointment process with the library trustees, and I said we had talked about this and we're gonna firm it up tonight, and that, we'd want to have it happen. If we have it next week, that gives us enough time to post this and run it for a week. It gives us enough time to have everything we need complete, so that we can take a look at these appointments at our next meeting.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, great. We'll work with getting that posting out, and get the word out on e-news and the Daily Sun or whatever, that we're gonna have a
Yep.
public informational night about public service in Jackson. Town assessor contract.
We finalized the terms of it, but I haven't been given the contract to sign.
So, we've had a couple discussions with Jason. And one of the hangups on this from last year was that those dates made it really difficult for us to get our tax rate out in the fall, which we already had a conversation about. So, Jason felt that moving that date up from October 31st to October 10th was reasonable. And so that's kind of where we're at with it right now. We just don't have the contract. We don't have the contract with the dates
Right.
changed, and there is going to be an assessment penalty on that if he doesn't meet those deadlines to get to you. And then the problem is that, like a lot of the town assessors, that they've got a bottleneck where everybody's working on these same due dates, and yet at the same time, I don't want to put our office behind on getting their tax rates out. So he seemed to think that was pretty feasible and reasonable. How do you guys want to move forward with that? I know those contracts are going to require all 3 of our signatures.
Has to make room to sign it, I think, first, doesn't it?
Can you make a motion that it's gonna be signed like next week or something? Or,
Do you have the contracts that haven't been officially edited? With those
Yes.
dates and penalty?
Not with the penalty.
Right.
That one was, yeah.
Maybe they can look at those, and if you want to see it when they come in, we'll just have to wait for 2 weeks. I know that first spring one, and we've got the Department of Revenue Administration that really wants to see those contracts signed ASAP so they can get their work done. It all kind of needs to fall in place, so.
Well, the next thing is the meeting with the Department of Revenue for the assessment review.
Right.
Then they
And
need
that-
the contract.
And they need a contract signed before they can schedule the
Right,
assessment review.
right.
So what's that day?
When is that date? There is no date, they're just, it's pending until we get that to them and but they want to get it going.
Deadline.
New deadline.
You know, one hour's capabilities.
Okay. If we get those contracts between meetings, you want
Step aside.
to, okay, great. Okay, get to work on that. 9D, old business liaisons. We talked last week about keeping the same departments. Anybody have any different feelings?
I do.
I think the only thing that I was thinking about was some of these other departments that, and individuals who are elected officials that do work for the town that don't have an official liaison channel to the board. And obviously, that's not something that anybody has to do, but I think.
You mean like Liddy?
Well, I
Or,
think
yeah.
he's kind of covered under the fire department, which is you.
Right.
You've got that domain covered.
Yes. Okay.
So we have a selectman coverage there. Bert, do you need to leave any of that with us before you leave? There's nothing there we need copies of, right?
Nope.
Okay,
I don't know.
thanks. We've got the town clerk, tax collector's office, and the library, and the treasurer that came to mind, and I don't know if it would be a good idea to kind of reach out and offer that, if they would feel comfortable to have a selectman that they could
The town clerk and the treasurer are elected, so
They were
would that be,
elected.
well,
Yeah,
that's,
they were lost, they were elected
Right.
officials,
No,
like you are.
we know that. We know that. What we're talking about is offering them a channel of communication that they could go to between meetings.
I would offer it to them, and,
Right.
yeah, I would offer it to them.
Well, the library's in the same boat here. They're not required to have a liaison. I mean, nobody's really, none of these people are required to have a liaison, but I thought it might be a great way to establish some regular communication between them.
You all have your hands full of a bunch of stuff. I'll be glad to do that if they want to do it.
Okay.
If they want to do it, I'll be glad to do it.
You want us to put that as an action item under your list between meetings?
You mean you want me to go talk to them?
Yeah, reach
Okay.
out, ask them, first off, you know, it's
Yeah.
just a voluntary thing, ask them if they'd like to have a
Okay.
regular liaison, and if they do, they can pick you, they can pick anybody they want. But I think you'd be a great candidate. Okay,
How many give us the library, the tax, and,
and treasurer. You never know.
okay, well, it's another communications.
Right.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay, great. And that takes us to our last public comment session of the night. Public comments in the room? There's a public comment. Did you get that, Hank? B, your hand up first.
Cherry, I've already made one,
Okay.
cherry Coke first.
A before beauty, Jerry.
Two things. First, on the liaison thing, it actually was something that I had suggested about 5 years ago when there was some problems with what was the proper channel for the various department heads, like the highway and the police, to, and I thought it would sort of make it possible that they would have a go-to person. And it was voluntary then. And I think that it's appropriate that even the elected people have at least they can speak to anybody, but that they have a regular person that they can meet with and speak to, so that there's not an issue of who said what to whom. I think that's appropriate, but my real reason for raising my hand was, I'd like to have the selectmen consider tasking an ad hoc committee to look at the budget and to think about it in possibly two terms. One would be a short-term issue. Well, let me back up one moment. I would suggest, and clearly it's in your hands, that the ad hoc committee would consist of one selectman, because she can't have two, Julie, because she has the task of really preparing the budget, and then two citizens. And that a possible tasking would be to look at the budget in a short-term way as to possibly deal with what would be a second half rather large jump in taxes, with sort of a double-edged sword, with probably assessments going down and the rates going up. And to think about how to properly use the unreserved capital fund to maybe offset some of that. But I think that needs to be part of the discussion as to what is appropriate for taxpayers' use of that. And then in the longer term, to think about the budget in terms of understanding how to level it some, and possibly even putting into the mix a conversation at least about capital reserve funds versus borrowing.
Financing for the.
Yeah,
purchases, fire
or maybe combinations of,
Right.
as to how it would be properly suited for the taxpayers to think about it. And then looking at the budget in its entirety, and so that both the selectmen and Julie would have a more thorough understanding of what some long-term goals might be. Obviously, it's in your hands to task that, to assign the duties, but it's a suggestion.
Excellent. Thank you.
Haven't you had anybody come forward to go on any of these committees? You haven't had anybody inquire?
You mean for the, I'm sorry.
But,
There were letters last week, I didn't see them, but there were some letters of interest last week.
well, that's what I meant.
Yeah. I didn't see names, I haven't seen them. We've publicly posted, this will be the third year in a row, that we've publicly posted all
Yeah,
of
they
them.
usually do it,
Yeah.
they want people.
Right, yeah. Any thoughts on any of the comments?
I personally think it's a wonderful idea. I'm probably the one who needs most of the work to understand it, being the new guy. And so I'm for it. I mean, we can talk about the details, but I think it would be a great idea. I would learn the most if I were doing it.
Well, I think that it was actually during our initial budget review hearing where Bill Kelly talked about, there are other ways to finance some of these heavy equipment purchases. And I think we're all a little nervous about the fact that we've got those two fire engines that are coming due in real close proximity to each other, and what does that mean? And I think it'd be great to have an ad hoc committee that is able to take a closer look at all of those issues for the selectmen. I think Jason's estimate on the town reval is probably in and of itself going to raise property taxes by 10%, according to him. That's his estimate. And
It's not raising the,
I mean, the town rate, the town tax rate, I'm sorry. And then the school tax rate, which we can do nothing about, but that is just approved by the voters to raise by 17%. So I think that it's my understanding that there are towns in our area, much larger than ours that have almost nothing in an unreserved fund balance, and why do we have so much, and what should we be looking at long-term? And I think it'd be great to have an ad hoc committee that could take an in-depth look at all those issues and have a selectman's representative on it and kind of come back and report out what our options are moving forward, yeah.
One of the things that you mentioned, the schools, in the next 5 to 7 years, our responsibilities with respect to bond being paid and tuition payments, which the large part was due to that, are going to come down.
Right.
And so that if that was part of, if an understanding of where our needs are and what our expected expenses are, it would help in the long-range planning. But I think that specifically we need to think about the second half of this year as to how, what we should appropriately do for that.
Right, and that is the short-term issue, and then that long-term.
Some of that conversation could be both of those things.
Yeah. So we like a fiscal master plan, so that we've really got a true picture of what's going to be happening over the next 5 years.
Perfectly described.
With bonds being completed and bubble classes being graduated through the high school system. And I like the idea that it really is kind of proactive. I think I would feel much better about our budget work if it had some of those long-range issues factored into it, or conversations had, I guess I should say. So, you guys feel all right with it?
That's great.
Okay. Is the fact that you're here tonight proposing this mean it's a committee you're willing to serve on?
Actually, I would be. However, my son, who probably has a better handle on it, well, assuredly has a better handle on it than I do. In a conversation with him today, I asked him if he would be interested in doing it, and he certainly would. And failing that, then I would certainly volunteer, but I think he'd probably be a better representative to it than I would be.
Okay.
And then, so you need another, I mean, besides, I would think 2 individuals would be, but again, up to you guys.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it. If you get, 15 on this thing. it's-
Right,
Right.
you're gonna go nowhere.
Right.
Yeah. So I think 4 is fine.
Okay.
If we decide later to add a 5th, maybe.
But I think Julie certainly should be, I don't want to speak for Julie, but because
Yes.
that's part of your,
I'd like to
that's
be-
part of your deal. It would be helpful for her to be in that as well.
Yeah. Yes?
And I don't want to make any decisions or anything, but being the treasurer, I would like to at least listen, if that's okay to do when this thing is taking place. I think it would be helpful to me, but not as a decision person or whatever, just as a listening person.
Well, let me ask, I don't think it's a decision committee, is it?
No, well, no, it's a,
And it's, no, it
No.
wouldn't be. It would be,
Right.
it would be a suggestion, and it depends on how you task it.
Right.
You
But
know,
at least information, at least to be able to come back and advise.
I think what Kathleen was saying is she would be a silent listener.
yes, yeah, a learning listener.
You'd have to really make that commitment. It's hard to get a word in edgewise when you're in the room, so. Did your hand go up?
Yes. Does the town have a capital improvement plan? I think I've seen that.
It does have a capital.
Does this fit
plan.
in with it?
I wouldn't say that it's
in addition to, or how does that work?
It goes hand in hand. I mean, I think we did a pretty exhaustive look at the capital improvement plan right around the late 90s. And so it's probably outdated in that sense. I don't think there's been one that's been done since then. And most of the big projects on it have been, it was, town garage, it was library, it was school renovation needs, it was rec center location, and most of the big ticket items on there are now done.
I think the outstanding one was the road plan improvement.
Yeah, right. And with voter approval, although we had a rough winter, We really felt like we were just about gonna get caught up with a lot of the heavy road maintenance that's been kind of languishing. So,
But that certainly would be part of that general long-term discussion.
yeah.
George.
Well, that may be a recommendation that comes back from an ad hoc committee if we form one to get the ball rolling on a current capital improvement plan, see where we stand with things, assess all the needs of the town. So, great, well, you're the one asking all the questions. Does that mean you're willing to be the selectman's representative on an ad hoc committee?
I think it ought to be, are you willing to put me on the committee?
Wow. John, is that something you
I'm not,
have strong feelings about? We've all got so much free time.
Yeah, I know, I'm game, but.
Okay, well, why don't you two, figure it out, and come back next meeting, and we'll hash it around some more, and see what we can do to get this thing concrete. I would really, trying to make these determinations about ways forward on the budget in November is just not enough time to really do things. And when Bill Kelly recommended we look at alternative ways to finance some of these large purchases, it was great to hear, but I didn't really feel like we had enough time to do much before we needed to have the warrant articles together. So it'd be great to have something like that just done. So we'll talk about it next week, or next
Okay.
meeting, and you guys figure out how it could look with the selectmen's representative, and we'll take it from there.
okay.
The only thing we're solid about is Julie's gonna be on the committee, so that's good. Any other public comments? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to enter into a non-public session pertinent to RSA 91A3 2C, matters which